What is up? It's Alex from Double Move Sports. Back to talk running back start sits for week 8. Week 7 was wild. The bye-apocalypse is over. We made it. In week 8, we only have 2 teams on bye, the Raiders and the Ravens. Definitely some interesting running backs there. You know, Josh Jacobs on the Raiders side of the ball. The Ravens have the committee, so we're down a couple, but most teams are going to be at full strength at the running back position as we look at these week 8 matchups. I'm going to be going through every single player you are thinking about starting in every single game, and I don't like to waste a lot of time. So let's go ahead and hop in to matchup number 1. It's the Packers at the Cardinals. The Thursday night football game this week is fantastic. Cardinals are favored at home in this game, and for Arizona, this has been a tough backfield to project this season, and I've been flip-flopping back and forth. Last week I had James Conner as a start. He did get into the end zone, so that worked out. I had Edmonds as a sit, and in PPR leagues he ended up with a decent game. I think he had about 10 fantasy points in week 7. And this week, in week 8, I'm going to go with Chase Edmonds as a start and James Conner as a sit. James Conner this season truly has been touchdown or bust. He's getting a decent workload on the ground. When he gets into the end zone, he gives you a solid performance, but he's not adding anything in the receiving game, and he's not ripping off these huge chunk plays over and over. So he's not going to give you the rushing total to give you a solid fantasy performance if he doesn't get into the end zone. So with only 30% of snaps in week 7, Chase Edmonds really coming back with 15 carries last week and starting to take this backfield back over. Even though Edmonds has been banged up over the last few weeks, I'm really seeing a shift happen for this Arizona team. And now we look at the game script against the Packers. And this is not a James Conner game script. This is a Chase Edmonds game script. Could be much more back and forth. Who knows? The Cardinals could actually be trailing in this game, something we haven't seen from them much this season. So I think Edmonds is going to be a good play in PPR leagues. He should get some receptions. He'll get the work on the ground as well. And because of that, I'm going to leave James Conner on the bench for week 8. And for the Packers, Aaron Jones is still a must start, and A.J. Dillon is still a sit at this point, although I still do think he's an interesting bench stash moving forward. But let's get to the next game on the slate. This one we're moving to Sunday. We're talking 1 o'clock games now. We got the Titans at the Colts. Titans are favored on the road in Indianapolis. And this one is fairly simple. Jonathan Taylor has been absolutely eating lately. Love to see it, so he's a start. Nyheim Hines is a sit. Just hasn't been consistent. He really hasn't performed well. I'll give him the pass on the drop on that ball in the rainy Sunday night game last week. If he comes down with that, it's a totally different story. But he's just not getting the volume to be started, so Hines is on the bench. And for the Titans, Derrick Henry is a must start every single week. So with that, we'll continue to move on through these games. We have the Panthers at the Falcons. Falcons are favored at home in this game. And for Carolina, I do still think you can start Chuba Hubbard. Christian McCaffrey is still out. And while Hubbard was disappointing last week, he at least had double-digit carries. He had some targets as well. So even when, this Carolina team struggles a little bit, I do still think Chuba Hubbard is going to be usable. So I think you can start Hubbard in week 8. And for the Falcons, Cordero Patterson has taken over. 14 carries and 5 targets last week. He's a must start every single week for me, especially in these PPR leagues. He's a combination of a running back and a wide receiver. You're getting all that in one starting spot. So Patterson is a start, and Mike Davis is a sit. He was barely holding up there for a while, giving you solid fantasy performances, but I think he's going to continue to struggle. He'll have his weeks here and there when he gets the targets, when he gets the touchdown, but the ceiling is low and the floor is low, and that's not something I'm looking for in fantasy. So Mike Davis is a sit, but we'll keep moving to the Dolphins at the Bills. Buffalo, obviously big favorites in this game. This one's tough. I tell you, these 3 running backs I'm going to talk about are incredibly difficult. We'll start with Buffalo because it's Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, and these are 2 guys that are splitting time. And week in, week out, you don't really know which one it's going to be, but at this point, it looks like it's more likely to be Zach Moss. So Zach Moss is still someone I'm willing to start. He is the more likely of the 2 to get into the end zone, and he's actually been fairly involved in the passing game as well, at least compared to what we've seen from him in the past. So I'll roll the dice and go with Moss between the 2 Buffalo backs, and because of that, I'm leaving Singletary on the bench. Doesn't quite have the touchdown upside that Moss has, so Singletary is going to have to do it with chunk plays, with volume, or with plays in the receiving game. And against the Dolphins, I just don't think the Bills are going to be playing from behind. So that's why Singletary's a sit. And for the Dolphins, this one's tough. Myles Gaskin I've gone back and forth on Gaskin so many times, but I'm going to start him. He's fooled you once, shame on him. Fool you twice, shame on us. But I think you can start him. Malcolm Brown is now a little bit banged up. Gaskin was more involved this week. He's still getting the targets. Even in his down weeks, the targets have been there, except for just the one outlier game where he barely played. So I think Gaskin can be started. I know it's a tough matchup against Buffalo, but if he can just get you a couple receptions and the Dolphins are able to move the ball at all, I'm hopeful that Gaskin can at least give you like a 10-point floor in PPR leagues in Week 8. But we'll keep it moving now to some better plays at the running back position. 49ers at the Bears. 49ers favored in this game, a really low over-under of 40 at the time of this recording. And Elijah Mitchell is the back I'm excited about in this game. The 49ers were running the ball great against the Colts, pivoted away from it a little bit. They were behind there, so they had to make the switch to a more pass-heavy attack. But Mitchell, I would have thought he would have got more carries in that game, especially with how good he played in that first quarter, in that first half. So Elijah Mitchell to me is a start. He's the clear number one back on the 49ers. Got 18 carries in Week 7. You absolutely love to see it. Trey Sermon's not threatening him. JaMychal Hasty, a bit of a third down back, but Mitchell is the clear runner in this offense. He should be a lock for 15 carries in this game against the Bears. So Mitchell is a start. And for the Bears, I'll start with the easy option. Damien Williams is a sit. It looks like he got passed by Khalil Herbert on this depth chart. And I'll start Khalil Herbert in this game. I mean, I know the Bears have been brutal, but Herbert's been the one bright spot over the past few weeks. 3 straight games with 18 or more carries, and he's turned that into 4.8 yards per carry on the total season. So he's now getting the work. He's been efficient on the season, and he's been good. He's really has been the one bright spot. So I'm willing to ride that hot hand and hope that the Bears keep feeding Khalil Herbert and he keeps making plays. So Herbert's a start in Week 8. Next, we got the Steelers at the Browns. A little AFC North battle here. 42.5 point over-under in this one. For the Steelers, Najee Harris, must start every single week. Thank goodness we get him back from bye in Week 8. And then for the Browns, it's looking like Nick Chubb is trending towards playing at the time of this recording. He's going to be back in practice this week. So Nick Chubb is an auto start every single week. And Dearness Johnson is a sit. I know he might get some of that Kareem Hunt workload, but I'm still sitting him in Week 8 against a tough Steelers defense. I don't think we're going to see Dearness Johnson come out and get the same workload he got last week. I don't know if he'll have as much success either when he does get the ball. So Johnson's a sit. Now, if Chubb, for some odd reason, misses this game, and he's very likely to play, at that time, I'd be willing to plug in Dearness Johnson, but I don't see that happening. So Dearness Johnson is a sit in Week 8. But let's keep it moving. We got the Eagles at the Lions. Eagles favored on the road. Surprisingly, I guess the Lions are just that bad at 0-7, but for Philly, Miles Sanders dealing with that ankle injury. So Kenny Gainwell to me is a start. It's going to be a split between Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott, but between the two, I'm starting Gainwell because one, I just think he's a better player than Boston Scott at this point in his career. And two, Gainwell is going to get more receiving work. At least that's what we've seen so far this season. 8 targets last week in that game when Miles Sanders left early. So I know this is a game script where the Eagles could actually be playing with a lead for once, but the Lions have put up some points in their games, and they have Hawkinson, they have DeAndre Swift who's making plays. So I still think Gainwell is going to get some work, and I like what he can do through the air. So he is a start, and Scott is a sit. And for the Lions, DeAndre Swift is a must start. I mean, in these PPR leagues, what a smash pick in the draft, at least so far in the season. 8th in the NFL in receptions. He's tied with Chris Godwin. And that's just his receiving ability. Doesn't even count what he's been doing on the ground. So Swift is a must start. Jamal Williams is a sit, the clear number 2 for the Lions.
Wait. Alex, I have to stop the show because I'm dumb hyped over this new sponsorship deal we got. Shout out to our guys over at Manscaped. And look, I was skeptical, but Alex, I've been a very hairy guy for a long time. I was the kid at 13 years old in middle school.
Oh, yeah.
With chest hair showing out of the polo shirt. Like, I was that dude.
I was jealous at the time.
Well, nothing to be jealous over anymore because ever since I got this Lawnmower 4.0 from them, it's been clean down there to say the least.
Manscaped has the Lawnmower 4.0, not the 1, not the 2, not the 3, but the 4.0. Talk about sleepers on our show, and this has to be one of the best sleeper products out there. I was skeptical as well, and it's been an absolute game changer. Check out Manscaped. This thing is legit, and you will definitely not be disappointed by this full body trimmer. It's incredible.
So Manscaped was nice enough to give us a 20% off discount code for the Double Move Sports viewers. You can get 20% off and free shipping with code DMS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code DMS, unlock your confidence, and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Now back to the show.
But we'll keep it moving with the Bengals at the Jets. The Bengals are looking hot. They're favored in this game. For Cincinnati, Joe Mixon, he's a must start every single week, especially in this matchup against the Jets. And for the Jets, you got Michael Carter, who's starting to look interesting. He is a deep start for me in week 8. You look at what he did last week, 11 carries and 9 targets in that game. I know Zach Wilson is now out. I think the guy's name is Mike White, who's going to be the quarterback for the Jets. But if you get a young quarterback who doesn't want to throw it downfield, Michael Carter could continue to see a lot of these dump down passes. Ty Johnson and Tevin Coleman are both banged up. Remains to be seen whether they'll be available in week 8. Even if they are, I think Michael Carter is the clear lead back now in New York. And in these PPR leagues, I think that receiving workload gives him a really good floor. So he's a start in week 8, but close your eyes. Next, we have the Rams at the Texans. 48-point over-under. In this one, obviously the Rams are heavy favorites. Easy, so we'll breeze through it. Darrell Henderson, still a must start every week. Absolutely love the matchup against Houston. And the Texans running backs are all sits. David Johnson, Mark Ingram, Phillip Lindsay. Don't even think about it. Keep them on, not even your bench, on the waiver wire. And we'll go ahead and get to the next matchup now. We got the Patriots at the Chargers. Chargers favored in this game for LA. Austin Eckler has been fantastic. He is a start. Thank goodness we get him back from bye as well in week 8. And for the Pats, you got 3 guys here: Damien Harris, Brandon Bolden, and JJ Taylor. Bolden and Taylor had touchdowns in week 7. Absolutely boat raced the Jets. They're sits this week. That was a function of the game script. They got a lot more involvement because they were up by so much, especially Taylor. Bolden, some workload in the receiving game, but I'm not trusting him to get that volume moving forward. So Taylor and Bolden are must hits. Don't fall into that trap in week 8. And Damien Harris is a start. I've talked about his splits when they win games. He's up, 15, 16 carries a game. When they lose games and they're behind in these game scripts, he's getting single-digit carries. He's been fantastic when they're in these good game scripts. I'm hopeful the Patriots can keep up against LA and give Damien Harris enough work in this game because he has been good. So Damien Harris is a start. Continue to ride the hot hand and hope that the Pats can at least be competitive here and Harris can get those 15 carries that we want to see from him because I think that's going to be enough for him to be effective. Next, we have the Jaguars at the Seahawks. Seahawks actually favored at home in this game, even with no Russell Wilson. For Jacksonville, James Robinson, he's finally broken out back into that must-start territory after a shaky first couple weeks, but he's someone you can now lock in with confidence. And for Seattle, we got Alex Collins, we got Rashad Penny, we got guys that are often hurt, we got guys that are often just fill-ins for the guy in front of them. So for now, these guys are sits. They're just injured too much, and you don't really know how the Seattle backfield is going to shake out. You also have DJ Dallas there. You also have Travis Homer there. You have so many names in the mix. I'm fading all Seattle running backs in this game. Now, if you're in a deep pinch, maybe you can throw one of these guys out there. But if at all costs I can sit them in week 8, I'm doing so, even though it is a pretty good matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Next, we got the Washington football team at the Denver Broncos. Broncos favored in this one, 43.5-point over-under, so pretty low. And we'll start with Washington. Antonio Gibson's tough. He's been disappointing, but he's still a start in this game. He's getting carries. And no, it's not the workload we wanted to see from him coming into the season, but he's still getting carries. And when he gets into the end zone, he's still been good this year. He's still been a serviceable running back too. So Gibson is still a start, even though the snaps have plummeted. The injury concerns are rising. Even though he's playing through that shin injury. I'll start Gibson in this game, but honestly, if I have Gibson, I'm looking to trade him. And not just for anything, but if there's someone in your league that's willing to buy into that preseason hype, trying to buy low on Gibson, but they're still willing to give you good value in return for something that your team needs, Gibson's someone I would start to think about trading because I'm just not really confident in him moving forward. And if that injury continues to progress and gets worse, it's a hairline fracture in his shins, that's a problem. So I'm looking to trade Gibson, but while he's active, I'll still start him, and I'll sit J.D. McKissic this week against Denver. In these super pass-heavy game scripts, he becomes tempting. Not something I'm expecting against the Broncos, and a low over-under as well. So McKissic is a sit. And for Denver, Javonte and Gordon both had touchdowns last week. Javonte looked great, but it's still a timeshare. Gordon still outsnapped him in that Week 7 game. So both are starts, especially in these deeper leagues, but you just have to temper expectations for these two guys. But we've got a few more games to get through here, so I'll try to keep it quick. We got the Bucs at the Saints. Tampa Bay favored on the road in New Orleans, 50-point over-under. This one's super easy. Alvin Kamara every week must start. For the Bucs, you got Leonard Fournette, who's entered must-start territory. He's getting the volume on the ground. He's involved in the passing game, and now he's finally starting to get those touchdowns to catch up with the workload in a good offense. So Fournette is a smash start. Ronald Jones still just a handcuff for me, so he's a sit in this game. But with that, we'll move on to Sunday Night Football. The Cowboys at the Vikings. Highest over-under of the week, 54.5 points. Dallas favored in Minnesota. For the Vikings, Dalvin Cook must start. For the Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott must start. And the interesting name is Tony Pollard, and he is a start for me in Week 8. He's seeing 10 carries and 2.5 targets per game so far this season. Pretty good workload, for a number 2 running back. And Pollard is so efficient. He's so good through the air. He's so good with his carries on the ground. He can turn 10 carries and 2.5 targets a game into a fantastic fantasy football performance. So Pollard is a start in Week 8. Last game of the week, we got the Giants at the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Watch out for Patrick Mahomes in this one. I feel like he's going to come out with a huge chip on his shoulder. And against the Giants, you expect him to be able to do some damage. But talking about these running backs, Darrell Williams is back to being a start for me in Week 8. Disappointing game in Week 7, but the wheels fell off for Kansas City. I expect them to get back on track against the Giants. So Darrell Williams is a start. And for the Giants, Devontae Booker's a start. I mean, filling in for Saquon. This is assuming Saquon's out. He's doubtful to play right now. If for some reason Saquon is in, I'll start Saquon. I'll sit Booker. But assuming Saquon's out, Booker's a start because in the last 2 games without Barkley, Devontae Booker's gotten 13 carries and 3 receptions a game. That's enough volume even for an average at best running back and an average at best offense to give you volume and give you a running back 2 performance. So Devontae Booker is a start in Week 8. But that does it for all the matchups. But before you go, be sure to keep an eye on the channel for more videos we have coming out this week. We've got a couple great pods talking about, running back rankings for the rest of the season. We're going to be talking about some sneaky buy lows. We have wide receiver start sits coming out. So if you like the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton, keeps you in the loop on what's going on here at Double Move Sports. Also, check out that link below for our Discord server. It's where Stef and I are hanging out, our community's hanging out, and we're talking fantasy football and we're talking NFL football 24/7. You definitely want to be in there if you do like Double Move Sports. But again, this is Alex. Good luck in Week 8, and we'll see you next time.